Welcome to Synchronize Swatches, the Parker Lewis Can't Lose Rewatch podcast. We identified a hole in the podcast market and we aims to fill it. I'm your host, Chris Gregory.
And I'm Chip Johnson. Flawless.
Off to a great start.
Gentlemen, synchronize swatches. Not a problem.
I've never liked you, Lewis.
Not a problem.
Eat now?
Clean out your locker, you're finished.
You want to talk a little bit about when you first saw the show and your experience with this show?
Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago. I do remember watching it when it was on primetime, like Fox. I know I caught episodes of it, but I don't think it was, and I think there may be the same story for you, but it was, I didn't really lock into it until it was in syndication on USA. Yeah. Though I do remember seeing it vaguely on primetime. But yeah, the syndication 90s run was definitely when I really latched onto it. Yeah,
I remember seeing this, like, as you're aware, I spent, the first half of the 90s living in Germany. And I remember seeing this show, they used to show it on Friday nights on Sky TV, which is it's a Rupert Murdoch thing. So, I mean, it's Fox, basically Fox over there on satellite. Because I remember I used to watch it on Friday nights. And I think I may have only watched the first season of it when it was originally on. I don't actually recall why I stopped watching it unless I just started doing something else on Friday or whatever. But, and I don't think I've ever actually seen the third season because I always remember the show. I don't want to get too far ahead. I always remember the show having Frank in it, Frank Lemmer. And apparently he wasn't on the third season. So whether or not we do the third season, I'm not sure yet. But I don't know if I want to do the show without Frank.
I did not remember him not being in the third season.
Yeah, just from what I've read,
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I don't know if I've never seen the third season.
So we'd both be watching the season that got it canceled for the first time together.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have seen it. I do know that I know from my recent research that season 3 they did like a major overhaul. Like all the surrealism was really toned down. A lot of the visual gags, which I mean, that's the fucking show. Like, I mean, that made the show. So I know season 3 is not going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, so I know that going in. But now that you mention it, if Frank was never in it in season 3, I'm trying to imagine it without him either. Maybe I never saw it.
I remember watching it. Like the other experience I had with it after that was when I moved back here. After the first year I was here in school in 11th grade. I remember that summer. I used to get up. I would get up at like 10, like you do in high school, and it would be on. They'd show back-to-back episodes on USA in the morning during the summer. And I remember watching it then, and kind of like, I think that's actually around the time we first started hanging out because I remember that's when I realized, we both kind of liked the show, and I didn't know a whole lot of other people who liked it, so it was a bonding point, I guess,
Definitely
because of that fucking humor that you're talking about, that stupid cartoon surreal nonsense on this show. That there's a little of that in the first episode, which we're going to talk about shortly, but I'm looking forward to. You can see like the kernels of the stuff there, but
they definitely ramp it up. They definitely ramp it up as the first couple seasons go. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's some fun sound effects in this one, which we'll talk about. But I mean, you start getting into stuff that's just like Musso's glass window being repaired magically. I mean, that's so.
I mean, the Musso door glass break is like, I mean, that's fucking iconic to me. Like and it's every episode they have a different way to break it. Yeah. And the one that there's one that really, I don't know what episode it is. I mean, we'll come across it at some point. But I have this memory of one where
I know what you're going to talk about. Go ahead.
Okay. There's a couple, and it may be the same one or maybe two different ones, but like there's one where she's like way away from the door and she does the thumb thing, and it just fucking Evil Dead camera zoom through the fucking hallway, and then it just hits the glass and breaks the glass.
Yep.
Like the sheer power of her thumb jerk breaks glass. But there's another one too, I think, where something causes the break, but the Miss Musso lettering on it hovers in midair. and the glass just shatters and breaks, but her fucking name number, the letters of her name float in midair briefly, like a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
And those are two glass breaks that I remember that I just fucking loved.
God, that's so dumb.
I know.
I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where you watch this show and you'll start to like really notice. You're like, oh my God, this informed my entire sense of humor for the rest of my life. This
100%, man. And then them talking about Frank. You mentioned Frank earlier, Frank Lemmer.
Yeah.
The way they just, I mean, they already set him up as kind of that, toady,
Right.
Miss Musso lackey henchman, but they really start like leaning into the dark kind of vampire-esque nature of him. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They really play him up as this kind of like undead thing.
Yeah, like a fucking vampire. He's a fucking vampire. All right, well, I guess we ought to get in the recap before we just talk about the entire.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's all the funny stuff we remember.
Yeah.
The show opens, as they all do, with a visual gag. This one being the, I don't know if in my memory, they always are opening a door and closing a door. I don't know if that's always the case or not.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think that
Yeah.
was kind of a rhythm they set up for all the episodes. The title open sequence is always like a cut to black, so it's usually like a door
Yeah.
closing. It's usually something where they put the
graphics, right.
camera inside something.
Yeah.
Like for instance, in this one, it's the refrigerator, and each family member comes in, opens it, gets something, closes, says something, and then closes the door, and it cuts to black, and then there's Parker Lewis, and then it, opens again. And so that's a gag. I know at least for the first couple seasons, they kept that up, like I think every episode.
So, okay. So this episode is the pilot, episode 1. It aired originally on September 2nd, 1990. Being the pilot episode, they're introducing all the family members in this one. So the first person who opens the door is Parker's mom, who is Mary Ellen Trainor, the actress. I don't know if he ever says the mom. I don't think he says his parents' name in this episode.
Not in this episode, no.
Yeah. So Mary Ellen Trainor is an actress who was in the Goonies. And it looks just like, if you look at her IMDb, it's just like a long stretch of just 80s and 90s bangers, basically.
Yeah.
She was in Forrest Gump. I don't know. She has one of those faces that, like, I see her in her pictures, and I'm like, I've seen her in tons of shit. I wouldn't know her name, but
No, me neither.
so she opens the door and basically does the mom thing of the mom in a 90s sitcom thing of reminding Parker that he's going to be late for school. So like you said, when she closes the door, the graphics pop up. And then the next person to open the door is Parker's dad, although he's an imposter dad, because as we know, this is the only time that Sherman Howard ever showed up on Parker Lewis playing the father. I kind of recognize him, actually, because he's in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation that I've seen about 1,000 times.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't have any ridges on his forehead, so he's a little hard to recognize, but I'm not sure. I don't know that I've ever seen anything else he's been in. Did he look familiar to you at all?
You have Day of the Dead here, which he's one of those guys that looks familiar, and I've probably just seen him in random stuff, but didn't know who he was.
Yeah. It's really strange because they pan up when he opens the fridge and he goes up to the freezer. He's looking for a ho-ho, which I thought was strange because I think of those as something that you put in the pantry. So
yeah, and it's weird because at first he's looking for it in the fridge.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
Okay, well, maybe you keep your ho-hos in the fridge to keep them kind of chilled. I mean, I put some chocolate in the fridge sometimes, but like then he finds it in the freezer. So it's just so weird.
He shuts the door, and then the door is opened by Shelley, played by Maya Bruton, who is, as we mentioned before, that's Parker's younger sister. And
she's great, man.
Yeah, she's hilarious. And she's looking around and innocently mentioning that she was frightened the night before because she thought she heard someone trying to get in the house way after midnight.
Yeah, I love the way way after midnight.
Way after midnight, yeah. And then she doesn't even just leave it at that. She says, but it was only Parker. Of course, though. Nothing subtle about that at all. So
typical sister, just throwing the brother under the bus. So
far we have a fairly nuclear family here with the mom fretting over school. The dad's a Homer Simpson type so far, and then you've got the sister who's the primary antagonist at this point. And then they do something very strange, what I thought was very strange, where after she closes the door and the door opens again, you see a body without a head. So it's I guess you can intuit pretty easily that that's probably Parker. He's fumbling around. He doesn't actually take anything out of the fridge, which is strange too. I don't know what
He
the
like
hell that
reaches,
was.
he puts his hand on the jar of pickles and then just totally retracts
He
it.
like pats it on top. He pats the pickles. Got to pack the pickles before you go to school. So it's just weird because you don't see his face, and then the very next shot is the school and him in voiceover, like sneaking into class. You immediately see his face, sneaking down the hallway. So I just thought that was kind of strange. So we see Parker Lewis sneaking down the hallway in voiceover, introducing himself, and his name is immediately splashed on the screen as well, starring Corin Nemec, who I guess at that time was probably best known for his role as Steven Stainer in the miniseries I Know My First Name is Steven, about the abduction and captivity of Steven Stainer. I think at this point, that's probably what he would be most known for. I think he might have been nominated for some awards or something yet for it, but I don't know.
Gotcha.
But so he comes sneaking in, and he doesn't have. We're all used to the pompadour haircut. If you've ever seen this show, you remember Parker Lewis having huge hair and
very Conan O'Brien.
Yes, very Conan O'Brien hair and silk shirts. And in this one, he's got flat parted hair and this white T-shirt with a button up over top of it, which is kind of strange, but he looks off model. He introduces his school, Santo Domingo High School, presumably in California. It sounds like a California place. So
a lot of palm trees, so I imagine.
Yeah, and flamingos in the background. Do they have flamingos in California? I don't even know.
Actually, that's the weird thing, actually, because you think when I think of flamingos, I think of Florida, not California. But maybe we have flamingos. I've never seen a flamingo out here, though.
Wouldn't that be weird if we watched this show for 30 years and it turns out it's taking place in Florida? The whole time I thought it was California, but it turned out to be Florida. That would be very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I don't know. I mean, I think it's supposed to be California. It just has a very California vibe. But the flamingo thing's a little bit of a curveball. I don't know.
He's walking through the hallway, and the class is let out, and that's when we're introduced to his best pal, Mikey Randall, played by Billy Jane. Who? What do you think he was? What would he have been best known for at that time? You think? Would it have been just one of the guys? I don't know what else he had been in at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, man, Parker Lewis is where I anytime I see any of these actors anywhere, I'm always like, I remember them for Parker Lewis. No matter what else they've done, it's always Parker Lewis is where I remember them from.
They introduced Mikey as Parker's best friend, and he's like a leather jacket wearing dude with his hair brushed up and everything, kind of that, 80s retro 50s greaser thing, kind of, And he busts out of the classroom to tell Parker that he's road pizza, which made me laugh.
I know. I was going to say that's one of the first lines that stuck out to me is one of the most 90s ass fucking phrases. Yeah. Parker, you road pizza.
Made me think of Ninja Turtles or some shit, But yeah, because apparently Musso's looking for him for missing his first class of the day. So we are then also introduced to Jerry Steiner, who is played by Troy Slatton, I guess.
Slatton or Slayton, yeah, I'm not sure of the pronunciation there, but yeah.
I have to admit that every single time Jerry's on screen, I'm basically laughing the entire time. I love Jerry. He's so fucking
great,
funny.
Man.
And he's immediately on model with the fucking trench coat, which he rips shit out of periodically, as anybody who's watched the show knows.
Everything's Velcroed in.
Man. Yeah, exactly. His little face. He comes running up there, and we get another freeze frame where he's introduced as, he's introduced by Parker in voiceover. And we find out that he's a freshman, which I don't know what grade Parker and Mikey are supposed to be in. Obviously, at least 10th grade. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're supposed to be juniors or something, but the show ran for 3 seasons and they weren't out of high school. But I don't
Maybe
know.
that's why I got canceled, because they went and got jobs. It was boring. I don't know.
They're not in high school anymore. The show doesn't work.
So he starts taking their orders for lunch, I guess, or something, but it's just a lot of exposition through voiceover and introduction of characters. So Parker so I'm going to talk about voiceover a lot. It's not the most interesting thing in the world, but he introduces them as the best buds, and they're walking down the hall talking about their business ventures, because earlier he had referred to his classmates as customers, which made him sound like a drug dealer, but they start
Yeah.
talking about it's very innocent. They're talking about the candy and soda stock throughout the school. At some point, they start talking about the fluctuating price of like Tom Petty tickets versus Kenny G tickets, and how they're going to drop the price of the Kenny G tickets and everything. So
Yeah.
they're basically laying the groundwork that these guys are just like players. They're not like malicious scammers or anything, but they're like the guys in prison who sell cigarettes and shit.
Exactly. That's exactly the analogy I was thinking of.
Yeah. So they're walking down the hallway.
They run the school.
Exactly. Yep. So they're walking down the hallway, and suddenly we get like these Jurassic Park stomps from off in the distance, and everybody stops moving. And from around the corner,
Music stops too. Like everything
stops.
Larry Kubiak. Rumor has it he killed a nun when she misplaced his lunch.
I mean, it's definitely a great intro of Coop. I mean, and yeah, you'll see that. Like, I mean, his only motive really is food. Like they play him as like this giant oaf, and that's just driven by appetite.
So they are heading to Parker's locker, which, like any cool guy in the '90s, he opens with a remote control, which is pretty awesome.
I remember wanting that. I totally remember wanting as a teenager. Like I was like, man, I want a fucking remote control for my locker.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's lots of stuff that Parker has. It's just like the coolest shit in the world, Yeah. Jerry's sitting there writing notes about everything that's happening, taking minutes.
I love that he's just taking minutes of the best buds meeting.
Yeah.
And he's so happy. He's so happy about it. He's so happy to be taking notes. He's so ecstatic. Like,
yeah. Well, it's like I said. Like, there's that part later where they're doing the scam on Musso or whatever, and you can see him in the background. He's like, "Oh my god, this is great!" Whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Damn. Take it down a notch, freshman. Jesus.
Oh god.
Did you happen to notice too that like all throughout the school in the background you can see banners for that "Remember the '80s" dance or whatever? That is so 100%. Weird. It's like.
Because you're 1 year away from the 80s. Yeah. It's 1990, and it's like, remember the 80s. It's like,
these kids were in school in the 80s. Yeah, like remember last year? It's so weird. I mean, I bet that's the kind of thing that would go past you really quickly now, because you'd be looking at it like, oh, yeah, remember the 80s, but like this is a totally typical thing, Yeah.
It's a totally typical thing now that like all these dances have these themes of like, oh, back 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember the 80s? Let's dress up like but yeah, I think maybe that was their joke. Like maybe that was the joke from the writer's joke, was because probably in the 80s there was a lot of like the 50s dances, like remember the 50s and everybody dress up in fucking 50s shit, and that was like a big thing in the 80s for dances, at least in the film world. When you see films, like if there was a teen dance, they was like had some theme of like the 50s or something. So maybe that was their joke, was that we're only a year removed, and remember the 80s. Like I feel like it had to be a joke because it's so bizarre.
We gotta talk.
Course scenes test? Not a problem. I told you you'd be covered.
No, that's not it.
You met a girl.
And then I think Jerry says something like, "Do you want to find out her name? I know a guy who like blah blah." And then like,
that's right. Yeah.
Mikey like covers his mouth. He's like, I know her name.
Yeah. Robin Fecklowitz.
Robin Fecklowitz. Yeah, which is
that's right. Yeah, and this is the part that has one of the strangest lines in this episode, which is when Parker has a voiceover about, I guess Mikey asks for help talking to Robin, and Parker says in voiceover, the last time Mikey had a date with a girl he wasn't related to, it went completely nuclear on him. Which stood out to me for obvious reasons when I heard it. Like, what in the fuck does that mean?
What
do you think that means?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know what to say about that.
I don't know how you take that. I mean, did he date a cousin and it went really well?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's all I can think of. I don't know what the hell that was, but anyway, after this, they have this conversation, and Parker agrees to help him. So as they're moving along, they go around the corner and they run into Frank Lemmer, the character we mentioned earlier, who's played by Taj Johnson. Another person who's, I don't know that he's had a whole lot of roles. I couldn't find a lot of parts that he has done over the years, but he is referred to by Parker as their principal's teenage mutant henchman, which is another little reference from the time that made me laugh. Do you want to talk about the way this scene is shot?
Oh yeah, that's the first time they start playing with the camera work, like a bunch of Dutch angles. Which, if people don't know what a Dutch angle is, essentially just tilting the camera so that your shot's all wonky. And so, like, I mean, it's pretty straightforward until now, and then as soon as you see Frank, it's like Dutch angle, and it's like we're all like, tilted, and he's tilted one way, and then we cut to the reverse shot of Parker and them, and it's tilted the other way. So just this tension and this kind of off kilterness, and also just the way that, because they're shooting down the hallway too, so like the perspective lines of the hallway and the ceiling, acoustic tiles and the ceiling. It's just I love that type of stuff, man. I mean, that's another reason I think I was so attracted to this show as a kid, because I mean, I love filmmaking, I love just the craft of making film and all the techniques, but I think that's what attracted, because it was just such an offbeat show, and the sound effects and the weird camera angles and visual gags and camera tricks and stuff.
So Frank is there to let them know that Miss Musso is wants to see Parker in her office. So they duck into a corner and they discuss possible alibis, at which point Jerry pulls a goddamn Rolodex out of his jacket, which made me laugh because it's giant, it's ridiculous for the time, and it's so archaic at this point to see somebody break out a fucking Rolodex.
Yeah.
And they start going through their list of possible excuses. The first one they suggest is an organ donor, at which point Mikey mentions that he's already given a lung and a kidney.
Yeah, I love this line. This is one of my favorite lines, partly because it sets up another line later that we'll get to. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's a funny line in itself, but it also sets up another moment later. But yeah, Mikey says, last year you donated a lung, this year a kidney, you donate another, you won't be able to breathe, and then Parker cuts him off. But I imagine he would say, or piss, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But like, so it's like he can't use the organ donor excuse anymore, which is just funny, but it'll set up another line later. But yeah.
So they decide to go to the videotape. So you get your first synchronized swatches moment, or in this case, synchronized watches. Yeah. And so then this is the part I was talking about, where Parker goes into Miss Musso's office and you can see Jerry in the background, and he runs by a screen. Oh God, this is great.
Oh God, this is great.
He's just so ecstatic to be doing this prank with them, or not a prank, but whatever, this stuff.
Yeah.
Back on the watches, though, I was surprised. Like, oh, they didn't say swatches. They say synchronized watches, and then again, watching it with the commentary, they mentioned, because they were surprised. They're like, oh, we just said watches, and then I think one of the showrunners chimed in. It was like, yeah, we hadn't got the rights, or we hadn't got the permission yet, because I guess after a couple episodes, they just reached out to Swatch, and I think they got permission just because it's free advertising for Swatch. So
it's funny too, because like I feel like anytime you ask somebody if you mention Parker Lewis Can't Lose to somebody, synchronized swatches like 90% of the time is what people say. So that's like that's like one of the things from this show that really like stuck with people who watched it. So
yeah.
I think it was a good idea that we chose to name our show this. So there will be no confusion. So at this point, as he's getting ready to go into Miss Musso's office, he's getting ready to knock on the door. He turns around and the music starts playing, and he sees this gorgeous woman standing there. And this gorgeous woman is our
stay by
future famous. So anyway, this is our future famous person for this episode, and I don't know if every episode is going to have one, but this is Mila Jovovich, who I'm pretty sure everybody in the world knows. But she is mostly known for the Resident Evil series, but I remember her most from Fifth Element and Dazed and Confused. Apparently she's also a singer. I didn't realize she also had a career singing, but
yeah, so
remember that?
Yes. So actually before I even remember her in before like Dazed and Confused even. I remember seeing her in Dazed and Confused. I'm like, oh, that's that singer.
Yeah.
There was a song called The Gentleman Who Fell. I don't know why the fuck I remember this. It was such an obscure fucking song in the early 90s. I want to say it was like 94.
Okay.
And I think it was like it got a radio play. I mean, it was played for a while. And I remember the video was kind of weird and like had like a lot of reverse footage, and it was bizarre.
Yeah.
But like that's actually how I know her is as a singer. That was the first introduction, and then I started seeing her and acting and things. I'm like, oh, she's trying to act now. Like,
Okay. Like that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously her acting career took off and her music didn't. But
I feel like there's a lot of things like that that like personally I just chalk up to the fact that, like I said, I was living overseas in the first half of the 90s. So there's a lot of stuff like that that I'm pretty sure that I just missed completely, because I had no idea until I saw this the other day that she had ever performed musically. It's just not a thing I knew about her. So
I think it was, even if you were over here, it was, I don't know why the hell it's in my brain. Like if you ask most people, I don't think they'd fucking remember that song.
yeah. So he's standing there watching her, and he refers to her as his Mona Lisa, or a Mona Lisa. There's angelic music in the background and backlight, heavenly backlight, and there's a fan that comes on. Her hair starts blowing
Blows her
everywhere.
hair. I mean,
It's very performative.
Well, I do love though. Because he's like, it's this voiceover about like, yeah, Mona Lisa, a Sistine Chapel, a dog's playing poker.
I forgot about that.
A dog's playing poker. Like, masterpiece.
So that's Robin Fechnowitz. He doesn't know that at the time, but
Yeah.
Before he has
Spoiler.
a chance to say, yeah, sorry, sorry. So before he has a chance to talk to her, the door to Miss Musso's office swings open. It slams. Whoa! I need a high sign whenever you're gonna do a fucking sound effect.
Was that too loud?
No, I just didn't know what was happening because I hit play on my computer at the same time and the window broke, and I was like, "How is that broadcasting?" So
Sorry.
let me cue it
I
up.
got a little sample box over here. It's just I'm having a little too much fun with it.
Let me cue it up properly. So the door swings open, and this is Miss Musso, played by Melanie Chartoff. I think I probably knew her best from this show, but also subsequently seeing that episode of Seinfeld that she was in. So anyway, now we're in Miss Musso's office. She has a... why does she have the TV on? I can't remember why she has a TV. I don't know if she's going to show him something or if it's just there. What do you think?
I think it's just there. I mean, it's obviously there for this prank that's coming up, this stunt that's coming up.
Right,
But
yeah. So she's threatening him with expulsion for cutting first period again.
So then Parker is sorry. So
good.
Parker's like, he's like, oh yeah, and he's trying to give her an excuse, and she's like, no excuses. You only have one lung and one kidney left. So again, this is where the Mikey line pays off later. And in addition to her saying you only have one lung and one kidney left, she has a chart that says remaining Parker Lewis organs.
Yeah, I love that.
It's like an anatomy chart.
Yeah,
and it shows one lung and one lung and one kidney. It's one lung and one kidney on this anatomy chart.
Yeah, there's no heart. There's no fucking intestines.
And she has one of those, those little antenna extending type pointer things, and she just whips at it. And so again, it's like the Mikey line was funny enough, but it's just there's this payoff of this callback to it with her in this fucking chart.
Yeah,
and I just love
God. So she does that, and then she whips out something labeled the Shred-O-Matic, which I don't know if that's a real product or not, but it looked funny. And I don't know if you noticed this, but like when Frank brings in Parker's transcript, it's basically just a picture of him. There's nothing else to it.
It's just a headshot.
She just shreds a fucking Corin Nemec headshot. There's nothing behind it. No. So it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. But
oh God.
So while this is all going on, Jerry and Mike are in the AV room, and they're patching in the video to show on the TV that's on for no apparent reason in Musso's office. And when they do that, you see that there is a staged news broadcast of a bus accident. Yeah, so there's a reporter on the street reporting on this horrible bus accident, and she says she's going to speak to the young man who helped save them, save the day or whatever. And it's Parker standing there directing emergency response people off camera, which is pretty funny. Yeah. And so basically the point of this showing that he was actually not cutting first period. He was assisting in the emergency response to a fucking bus accident.
Yeah. And as the reporter says, single-handedly saved a busload of children. Single-handedly.
Yeah. And this provides him the alibi he needs, apparently, because Miss Musso throws him out of her office, and we get the Ferris Bueller. You want to play that part?
Oh, the obvious ripoff. It's an obvious Ferris Bueller ripoff. That whole chicka chicka. But it's like chicka chicka. What is it? Chicka chicka. I think I have it. There
There
it
you
is.
go. It's Chicka Chick Cha.
Yeah, it's I can't say it. I can't actually do it. I can do the old one, the real one, but yeah.
Chicka Chicka Cha. That's what it is.
It's
Chicka
such
Chicka Cha.
obvious fucking ripoff.
It's
Oh
just
god.
beyond the reach of the legal system is what that
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
So,
totally.
what kind of a fade out would you call that?
Oh, so yeah, they definitely use
do
this
that before.
90s transition. I think it's like
Yeah.
I think now they call it mosaic, but it's like just a pixelization
Yeah.
transition. Yeah,
I remember that
and they
being
use that a
something on there
lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's something that they do a lot on that show, from what I recall. So, all right. So next we're in the classroom, and Parker is sliding his desk over to the beautiful woman he saw in Miss Musso's office, or waiting to go into Miss Musso's office, where he offers her a choice of gums, one being carefree, the other being spearmint of some kind, which she selects, and he refers to as the lusty choice, which I thought was amusing. Don't know what
A
that's all
lusty
about, but
choice.
yeah. So in
Uh,
voiceover, he's fawning over her, and as he's fantasizing, you see Mikey's dumb face come sliding into the shot, and at this point, Parker realizes that the girl he's talking to must be Robin Fechnowitz. So after he makes this realization, we cut to a payphone, where this is one of those cartoonish moments where they cut, and immediately Mikey's slinging the payphone directly into Parker's face with a sound effect. Yeah,
just that,
exactly, just like that. There it is, with a dopey look on his face.
yeah,
He basically is asking Parker to call Robin on the phone and pretend to be him and ask her out. So Parker is talking to Robin, and she agrees to go on a date with Mikey, which disappoints Parker, obviously.
yeah.
But then immediately Mikey gets cold feet until Parker offers to help him with his date. And at this point, we get a smash cut to not a Radio Shack, but basically a Radio Shack where she's working.
Or a Circuit City ripoff or something.
Yeah. It's just the kind of store that doesn't really exist anymore, where you go buy old TVs.
Yeah. Tons of CRT televisions, tube televisions,
yeah.
everywhere you
So-
look, and VCRs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the soundtrack in the background is playing on the TV. They're playing the music video as Mikey walks inside. He goes inside, and then steps over to one of the aisles, and he breaks out a huge book because he sees Robin standing over there by the register. So he walks into one of the aisles and he opens this massive book that he has in his hands. He's walking.
It's a
around
dictionary.
It looks
It's
like I was gonna say he's walking around.
He's
with
carrying a fucking dictionary.
Yeah. Not conspicuous at all. He doesn't even hide it. He just has it on top of one of the TVs, and he's looking inside, and there's a very small black and white television in there with Parker's face on it, where he's going to do some Cyrano shit for him.
Greeting.
Greeting.
No. Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Compliment her, Mikey.
So at that point, that's when somebody stumbles into the camera that I assume Jerry is holding, or that they have set up on a tripod or something. But somebody stumbles into it and disrupts the video feed, and then we get to see the Three Stooges, which was very of its time, I think.
I was gonna say, as I was watching that, I was thinking there is a lot in 80s and 90s television. There is a lot of referencing the Three Stooges,
Yeah.
and I mean it's it's ancient even then because it was
Yeah.
what 30s 40s. I mean,
It was like 20s. Those shorts are fucking old.
so it's like but it just had such a life that like in the 80s there's just so many shows that just make jokes about it or reference it or they're watching it or like, and also part of me is like, did it fall into public domain at that point? So
It's
then
possible.
people could just use, like, for instance, we see it on the television. So
Yeah.
is it just free because it's in public domain at that point?
I think
don't know.
yeah,
Like,
I think it was probably free, and it's probably useful as a, like a comparison point between like
Yeah.
these three numbskulls and these three numbskulls
Yeah.
are watching on screen, fart their way
Yeah.
through this nonsense. And I guarantee you there's going to be a Three Stooges Cyrano episode as well, I'm sure. But
Oh yeah.
at this point, the feed comes back on, and it comes back on every TV in the entire Radio Shack or whatever this place is. So
Yeah,
everybody,
apparently Jerry jacked into the wrong feed or something.
Yeah.
And broadcasted on every TV in that.
somehow it's broadcast in the entire store, so everybody can see Parker at this point. So the jig is up here. But one line that stuck out to me was when Parker talking about physical intimacy and says, "Don't try to kiss her yet. This is the 90s. You don't want to be pushy." Which I thought was just okay. This is the 90s. It's got to be one of the first times anybody said that on a TV show in the 90s.
Yeah.
But so Robin is aware now at this point that what is happening and says goodbye Mikey and goodbye Parker, and then turns off the TV, and then we get our first cut to commercial. So at this point, Parker takes it upon himself to talk to Robin and try to smooth things over. So this is maybe one of the most awkward transitional scenes. We just had a scene where she like literally turned Parker off the TV, you know?
Yeah.
You have like this big confrontational moment of goodbye Mikey and goodbye Parker. And then we cut to this scene where Parker's trying to smooth things over, and we're like 10 seconds into it, and she's, for whatever reason, she says, talking about Mikey, says, he seemed a little shaky, but you don't seem shaky. And then she kisses him, which to me was like, I mean, it's a teen show. It's a teen sitcom. So I don't expect a whole lot of like continuity or anything, but it was very strange. I don't know if there were more scenes that were maybe removed from here.
I don't know. I mean, it does feel like a very abrupt turn.
Yeah.
But I think it was just to necessitate moving the plot along.
Yeah. Just bad writing. Just clumsy writing, basically. I don't know. I like Mila Jovovich, but not the best acting there either, obviously. So
right.
You know, it's just a very ham-fisted scene, basically, to get to the point where she is kissing Parker, and at which point Shelley comes walking out, just by coincidence, comes walking out of school and breaks out an enormous camera from her backpack, like this.
She always has a camera on her. It's like she always has a camera, and she always has like a recording device, like an audio recording device. And, like, she's always prepared because she just wants to get her brother. Like, she just wants to screw her brother over so much. Yeah,
because she's a fucking sneak.
Yeah, and so she snaps pictures of this this little tryst, and says her first. This is the first time she utters her like catchphrase. My brother's a dead man. Yeah. She always says that. My brother's a dead man.
My brother is a dead man. Yep. There's a lot of like catchphrases thrown about in this show like that. And we've only heard not a problem. I don't even know if we've heard not a problem yet, but that
God, yeah. Did they say in the beginning?
They may have. We've heard Synchronize Swatches. We've heard my brother's a dead man. We're gonna hear not a problem at least a half a dozen times after this point in the episode, but
yeah, exactly. It's gonna come up more now. And then, but actually, in this one, we don't even ever hear coolness, right? I don't think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I guess that
coolness doesn't come about. I don't think for probably another couple episodes.
So Shelley's getting pictures of Parker, and we get another one of those mosaic transitions. And to an overhead shot of Parker in the most 80s fucking bed I've ever seen in my life. These linens are checkerboard patterned.
Very ska.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it is. You're
right. Got ska sheets.
Yeah, he's got ska sheets. He's got, I don't know if it's sharks or something, whales or something.
Yeah, the comforter. That
that's fun too.
That comforter is like, and we see it a couple episodes from now a little better. And I want to say, to me, it looks like bipedal sharks with sunglasses.
Yeah, basically. It's interesting juxtaposition, too, between, like, this previous scene where he's, like, making out with somebody, very adult thing, and then you cut to this scene where he's sleeping in, like, an 8-year-old's bed. So it's very, very strange. Totally. So then we see Shelley wake him up from his he's rolling around in bed, like having a fever dream or something. Did you understand what she said when she woke him up? Because I couldn't fucking understand what she said.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah. She just broke out the bullhorn. It was just like this.
I know what you did.
What? What'd I do?
You kissed Robin back to it.
So he goes sprinting off to school to try to get there before everybody finds out about this kiss, and he is entirely too late because when he gets to his locker, Mikey's watch is nailed to his locker through the picture of him and Robin kissing.
And it says synchronize this.
Yeah, that's right. Synchronize this. That's right. And then and then we get good old Jerry comes running up, just protesting that this could not be true. This rumor he heard could not be true until he sees the picture, and then he gasps very loudly and dives into the dives into the locker, which is another Jerry thing that I fucking love. Every time
Very,
he just,
very Jerry. Yeah.
just dives into the locker, it's so funny. He continues talking as Parker walks off. The next scene we see is they're in the lunchroom. The camera pans past Kubiak. You see that his
So
lunch
this is,
bag.
this is
Go ahead.
definitely one of those very cartoony. I think this is one of the most cartoony moments in this episode.
Yeah.
Is this little pan across Coob? No, sorry, you can go ahead. But yeah, this is
No,
like for me. This is like the
Paint the
cartoon
picture,
moment.
man. Paint the picture, please.
So we're panning through we're I guess we're dollying through the lunchroom, and we go past Kubiak, who's sitting at the lunch table, but he of course his big ass brown lunch bag is there off to the side, but he's got a blue tablecloth laid out, like a very fancy blue tablecloth. He's got little dishes of dipping sauces.
Yeah.
He's got candles. He's got fucking candles
Candelabras.
and a big silver platter. And like, I think it's like, what is it called? A cloche, the big silver cloche. That's the big cover for the silver platter that you raise off to reveal this enormous chunk of meat, which I don't know. You said it was a turkey leg or maybe, I don't know, a beef shoulder or I don't know what it is, but it's a big.
It's a wedge of fucking meat. It's a wedge of meat.
Yeah. It's just, I just love that, Coob, I mean, he's very oafish and very, it's just about food and just blah. But like, he takes the time to set a nice table.
Yeah. He's going to dine nicely. He really gets into it too.
He can enjoy the finer things in life.
Yeah. That's one of those things about that character I think they play up later. It's just like how actually well spoken he is and how, he is cultured, but he's also not above taking an entire chunk of meat up and just, I mean, fucking Abraham Ben Ruby took a bite out of that shit. I mean, he was not fucking around. So
yeah, Coob is a great character. I mean, there's so many great characters on this show and so many great actors. Like you say, some of them just didn't do much else, but like they're so fucking good,
Yeah. Yeah. So, after we go past seeing Coob, we get a shot of Mikey going to pay for a lot of food. Actually, I don't know who he's paying for this food, but he's trying to pay for the food, and they're indicating that they won't take his money, and they point off in the distance, and there's Parker standing there with the shittiest fucking eating grin I've ever seen in my life. It is so weird.
Yeah.
How proud he is of himself for buying Mikey's
his lunch.
Presumably $5 lunch from school. Like that's gonna
smooth everything over.
Do it, yeah. And he looks so taken aback when Mikey just dumps the food in the trash. He's like, I can't believe this $5 lunch I bought him didn't fucking fix everything. So the soundtrack kicks up. We hear "What a Wonderful World It Would Be" by the band Native, and we see Parker's next attempt. This is playing over this scene. We see Parker's next attempt, which is very strange to me. He has installed some sort of apparatus under Mikey's chair in the classroom.
It is the most convoluted fucking thing.
Yeah. He went from I'll buy his $5 lunch and that'll smooth things over to I will get something that penetrates his ass and gives him an orgasm when he scores well or shocks his balls or something. If he doesn't do well, I will.
So to help him pass a chemistry test. This is all to help him pass a chemistry test because we know he's dumb. Like he ain't gonna pass it on his own.
Yeah, he could have helped him study, but no, he could have gotten him a tutor. No, none of that. He's gonna install a fucking machine, a device under his chair. And Mikey sits down to take his chemistry test, and Parker and the only black character I saw on this show, except for the guy sitting next to Mikey, I guess. So there might be a few other background actors, but.
Oh, yeah.
Did you notice that the guy is smoking a pipe?
School. It's a pretty white school.
Yeah. Did you notice that the guy helping Parker is smoking a pipe?
No. So you had mentioned that you're like, I think he's the only black guy in the high school, and I was like, I actually don't think he's in the high school because I think him wearing this MIT sweatshirt or whatever is supposed to be like Parker brought in this college student from MIT to assist in this helping of Mikey pass this test.
So he brought in an engineering.
Supposed to be the extravagant part of it. He probably flew somebody in because if we're in California, right? He flew in somebody. He flew in the student from MIT to help with this whole thing.
He brought in an engineering student who smokes a pipe for some reason. I guess that
I didn't notice the pipe. I did not notice the pipe.
Yeah, if you go to like 1350 or something, you'll see like this guy's sitting there with a fucking pipe in his hand. Maybe that's supposed to also imply that he's older. I don't know. I feel like now.
Yeah, I think that's what I think they were trying everything they could to make this guy look. Oh, I see the pipe. Yeah.
Isn't that silly? He's just sitting there holding a pipe.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So Mikey gets his test. He starts to fill in the wrong answer, and somebody presses a red button, which zaps him directly up the asshole, apparently, because he leaps in his chair both times. Yeah. The rest of the class looks and sees what's
he tries to play it off like because he doesn't know what happened. He just got
that's true. He has no idea why he's getting sharp pains up his fucking asshole. But like, so then after that we get he fills in B instead of A, and this time they press the green button, which is the pleasure button.
And the look on Mikey's face,
he looks like the thing is inserted into his butt. The look on his face and the fact that he's like bouncing up and down in his chair, and like it's the fucking weirdest. This whole scene is fucking weird.
It's weird.
And then it's interrupted by Miss Musso, who comes in, grabs the paper, and rips it in half because she knows what's going on. Presumably, she walked by and saw Mikey orgasming or something. Yeah. Parker Lewis cheating. Parker Lewis is behind this. Another thing.
And then she spots the camera, right? She spots the camera up in the ceiling.
Exactly. Yeah. So she rips the paper. She looks around. She looks up and she sees the camera up there filming because it's not very well hidden at all. It's very conspicuous. But she mouths Lewis into the camera, and Parker knows he's completely fucked at this point. We cut to the main office again outside Musso's office as Parker is physically thrown in there by Frank, I guess. On one bench at the far end, we see Mikey sitting there looking despondent, and closer to the camera, we have Coob sitting there in the office. And it took me a while to realize what he was doing, but
cave paintings.
He's turned around drawing on the wall, and I was trying to figure out what he was drawing, but then it dawned on me that he's in an attempt to paint him as a fucking caveman.
Yeah,
he's
doing cave drawings.
He's a Neanderthal, so yeah, he's drawing. He's doing cave drawings on the wall. There's a guy standing there with his hands up in the air, and then there's a giant who's about to smash him with a rock or something. Or with a club. Yeah, you're right. It's a club, yeah. So
oh God, it's so ridiculous.
More of Coob just being this Cro-Magnon man or some shit. I don't know. It's hilarious. It's perfect.
Yeah. So when Parker first sits down to talk to Mikey, because he's trying to, Mikey doesn't want to have anything to do with Parker. So he scoots down the bench, or he goes farther down the bench towards Kubiak, and ends up inadvertently sitting on Coob's lunch.
Yeah.
And it's just, of course, like goofy sound effects of just squishing, shit, squishing and nasty sounds and stuff. Yeah.
So Mikey smashes the lunch, and then Miss Musso comes out, opens the door, and calls him in. So he gets up. After the food is smashed, Mikey stands up. He starts to walk off, and Coob just like sniffs the air, like some kind of fucking predator, as though. I'm sorry, I'm rewatching it. It's just this very subtle little nose twitch.
Yeah,
like an animal. Basically like an animal. It just reinforces this idea that Coob is just like this bear or something, It's just, I don't know. It just made me laugh. But Miss Musso closes the door, and Parker realizes what's happened, and he looks horrified. And so he's in this as Kubiak starts to turn his head, we get this cartoonish creaking sound, like a gate or a door closing, which was also hilarious.
Oh wow.
This is kind of like Parker's big moment to decide whether he's going to let his friend suffer the consequences, or he's going to try to make it up to him by taking the fall for him. Yeah. So, being Parker and being a good guy, that's what he does. He runs over and sits directly on Coob's lunch right before he's able to turn around and see what has happened.
And I think it's that whole comic speed up thing too, right?
Yeah.
That they start doing a lot where they're like, he runs over, but it's all like sped up in post, so it's just like, like it's all cartoony, like.
So Musso's door opens again at this point. Parker's sitting on the lunch bag. I guess Coob is aware at this point of what's happened, but Musso opens the door, tells him, don't think of this as detention. Think of this as a lot of detention. And Mikey walks off, and at this point she summons Parker into the office. And as Parker gets up to leave, Coob reaches down and finds his smashed bag, and he picks it up and looks in Parker's direction and growls. Like a bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Coob's a bear. Let's just say it. Kubiak is just a shaved bear. So next we're in Musso's office, and at this point she has decided that she is going to expel Parker for this latest scam he's pulled. She confiscated the tape of Mikey cheating and decides to put it into the video player in her office. She turns it on, and the camera has, before the actual cheating scandal, Parker was testing the camera, so it has caught Miss Musso and the science teacher making out in the classroom prior to class. So,
and then we have
we've got our chicka chicka cha moment.
But it's not used as a transition. It's just used as like a gotcha.
It's used as a Musso's fucked moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's completely horrified to see this video up here, and she basically throws him out of the office at this point. Parker is exiting her office. He walks directly into a chokehold from Kubiak, who picks him up off the ground and utters the best line in the episode.
Yes.
Jim. Death.
Great Kubiak moment.
Yeah, it's the best line of the episode.
So as Parker exits the office, he sees his sister in the hallway, and she's selling all of his belongings at the Parker Lewis estate sale. I looked around for a second and saw he has a pair of Adidas there. He has a phone, and he has a word processor over there, typewriter. So in another cartoonish moment, Parker just summons Jerry from thin air, and Jerry comes flying over there. Is this the part where it goes boing when he shows up? You hear like this boing when he arrives. And he instructs Jerry to institute Kubiak Safety Valve Plan A. Jerry protests the use of this plan.
Yeah, he's like, it's untested. We don't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, plus I don't even know where he is.
Yeah, at which point Parker says, "Find him now."
Yeah.
And then he turns to Shelley and threatens to tell their mom about the tattoo as payback for this.
And she has a little moment there when, like, when she kind of jumps, and I can't tell if she's like grabbing her butt, like when she
probably
jumps
where the
back.
tattoo is.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, is that what they're entail? Is that kind of what they're implying? Is that she's got a tattoo on her ass?
And I just have to say, she looks very, very young on here to be in high school. Like ninth graders must look not. I'm assuming she's in ninth grade, which would imply, I guess, that those guys are probably in at least 11th grade. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they were planning in season 3, but she looks really young to be in this school.
Totally.
And also very young to have a tattoo, obviously. So,
especially on her ass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, in this same scene, the scene ends with Parker he says the thing to Shelley, and he turns around, and Robin's in his face at that point. So he tries to blow her off, but then she grabs him and throws him into the auditorium, which is where we see a lot more of these "Remember the '80s" banners on the wall. She says she doesn't really want to go out with either one of them. This is another one of those scenes where it's like, I feel like there's probably like 6 scenes in this episode that are missing that develop this character at all, because she goes from blowing Parker off to kissing him to coming into this scene where nothing has happened between them since then. But now she's like, I just want to be your friend, and whatever. So it's weird. It's just, her she's not doing much in this episode, Yeah, so she says she doesn't want to date him. She just wants to be friends. He says, not a problem. And then he compliments her as she's walking away, and she tells him that he's still hot. So at this point, Parker says to himself, in voiceover, maybe it was going to be a good day after all. And then, of course, for some reason, he forgot that he was about to be murdered by Kubiak. So Koob enters the shot. He enters the shot, and another one of those just like classic Koob moments of being in the camera shot immediately, breathing heavily, and fogging the camera lens. That kind of shit always just, I don't know.
Such a great gag. It's such a great
shit
gag.
always makes me laugh. And, and it only fogs his face too, which is funny.
I know.
Makes him look like a real serial killer when he does that. But so, and as Parker's backing away in voiceover, he's saying to himself, why is it people like me have been running from people like him all our lives? Because he's bigger, which, okay, cool. And then he asks Kubiak for a truce, but Koob says no, because people like you have been running from people like me all our lives, which is just another strange moment, which causes Parker to spike the camera and say, "Whoa!" Which, I don't know if that was a reference to something, but that was very heavily acted. Mikey comes bursting into the gym and stands in front of Parker and tells Kubiak he's going to have to get through him first. At which point, Kubiak replies, "Not a problem." So Parker and Mikey try to escape this cafetorium door while Larry stands on the other side of the Kubiak's. Cafetorium is a real word, too. I looked it up. I wasn't.
No, it's great. It's great. A cafetorium, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I didn't know it was a real word, but still, I was like, that's fucking brilliant. That's exactly what it is. It's a cafeteria and an auditorium. But so they run to the fucking doors, right?
Yeah.
And they try everything to get through this door except pushing the handle.
Right, exactly. Like, the whole time I'm watching, I was like, you fucking boneheads. Mikey's like touching the top corners of the door. They're like, just like feeling around the whole things while Kubiak's over there pulling on these spiked gloves because he's going to murder them. So
his killing gloves.
Yeah, exactly. So then they cut back to them and they're on the floor for some reason. I don't know if we missed something there, but they run over.
Like falling across the floor or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah. So they run over, they try to keep the piano between the two of them, and then Kubiak just reaches over and pulls them both over. And just as he's about to murder them, Jerry enters from the stage behind them and interrupts Kubiak.
Far be it from me, sir, to interrupt you at your work.
Kubiak safety valve plan A.
But as long as you're going to squash Mr. Randall and Mr. Lewis like bugs, sir, then I find it only fitting that a friend of mine should have the privilege of observing.
Hi, Francis.
Francis?
Bobby?
And they play the most, I don't know, they play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in the background. It is the most like lullaby sounding shit. And this enacts a change in Koo, who immediately starts pulling the gloves off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I'm watching this fucking clip and I just saw the part where Jerry slides his face in.
I love it because he's like, my friend Jerry, and Bobby is just, my friend Jerry said you guys are going to do something really neat. Can I watch? And that totally like shuts Coob down. He's like, we're not doing anything, buddy. He's like, why don't you go back home and I'll be home soon or something like that.
Bobby asks Coob if they can play G.I. Joes after school, and Coob agrees to do so. And so then Jerry starts to lead Bobby off the stage, and Bobby says, I really love my big brother. You can cut in the actual thing here, but Bobby says, I really love my big brother. And Jerry says, yeah, everybody does. So Kubiak turns and tells Parker and Mikey that if that he will allow them to live if this incident never leaves the room. And of course, Parker and Mikey agree, and they explode out of the school side door, screaming at the top of their lungs, Kevin McAllister style. Parker and Mikey make up outside the school, and Parker gives Mikey a replacement watch. And then in voiceover, Parker says that they decide never to allow a woman to come between them again. At which point a cheerleader literally steps between both of them and looks around the corner. And I got to say, the look on her face was it was unexplained in the episode. It's unexplained in context. She looks so fucking angry when she looks around the corner after she walks past them. The look on her face just fucking got me the first time I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea why she looks so angry.
Who directed her to do that? Why didn't they direct her to do it differently? What was the choice made there? It's just so strange. But so as you said, they go around the corner. These majorettes are out there performing to that same What a Wonderful World It Would Be song again.
Oh, yeah.
And that's our fade out at the end of the episode, is the two guys interrupting their performance.
Yeah, we just crane up to this big dance number. And they're just weaving through these majorettes.
So then we get our little stinger at the end of the episode, which is the same. It's the same gag as the beginning, with Parker opening up the refrigerator, and then Shelly comes walking up behind him and she's brushing her teeth. And I didn't understand it right the first time I saw it, but Parker's sitting there rubbing his face. I didn't get that at first, but the reason
because he's got like the toilet paper you put on yourself when you cut your face or whatever, like when you're shaving.
Yeah,
you put a little piece of toilet paper.
Yeah, so she says she apologizes for using his razor to scrape her soccer cleats. At which point he then apologizes for using her toothbrush to clean the aquarium, and she runs off. So then he looks directly at the camera and says, "Not a problem," which seemed like another strange context for that to me. I mean, it makes sense at various points in this episode, and then there's other points where it's like you can just feel them hammering the fucking catchphrase in. So.
Catchphrase, but I also think it becomes not a problem. Becomes it's almost like a gotcha. You know, like I don't know, like. Because they say it at times when, contextually it doesn't quite make sense, but it's just it's kind of a gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha, bitch. So anyway, that's the end of the pilot episode of Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Interesting episode. I mean, you get the germs of what this show is going to become.
Yeah.
And there's some weird anomalies like his hair. You know, that's not Parker hair. You know, like and his shirts were much more toned down in this episode.
Yeah,
and they're still pretty 90s as fuck, but not as much as they get.
Yeah, and it's weird too because it's like the other two characters, the other two of the three are already on model. You know, you got Mikey with his leather jacket and his pompadour, and you've got Jerry with his his curly hair and his fucking trench coat. You know, his like science guy look or whatever. You know.
Yep.
It's interesting that for the pilot, the main character, he hadn't quite been formed entirely, you know. As far as the episode goes, what were your thoughts? What did you think about, what did you think about the episode as a pilot show and just as an episode of television?
I mean, I think it was good. There's definitely much better episodes to come. But I think it definitely, as a pilot especially, because it definitely set the tone and it's like, that's what this show is.
You know, when you're coming out of a decade where all the TV shows were like, not all the sitcoms, but a lot of the family sitcoms were like, these saccharine things, like the stuff on TGI Friday and whatnot, TGIF or whatever, and other shows like that from the 80s. It's interesting to see this is kind of a family sitcom, it's kind of a teen sitcom. It's interesting that they embraced the idea of doing this cartoonish stuff, including these cartoonish reality bending things, It's a very elastic show. Its reality is very elastic. And, I think that's probably what spoke to me at the time as like a 12 or 13-year-old and what still at this point still makes me laugh. I mean, I laughed out loud watching this episode, it's fucking clunky as hell and it's weird and like, it's very cringy at various points. A lot of the scenes with Mila Jovovich are just like, ugh, God, and that sucks because she's good, she's a good actress, but she's not written well in here. But the rest, but like you said, like the stuff that sticks around, the stuff that develops, you can see it being planted here, and it's it's fun to see. And if something like this, if this pilot, which is fairly successful, can make you laugh, that it's done its job, but it's also, encouraging because I know where it goes, and I know that it kind of springboards off this insanity into something even more insane, so I'm looking forward to watching the rest of them. So this was a good break.
Me too. I'm really looking forward to rewatching them. I've kind of already started watching a couple ahead, just leisurely.
Yeah, so we'll be back next time with Operation Kubiak, and wherein Larry's college football scholarship is in jeopardy when it is discovered he can't add. God damn, man.
A giant oaf.
No, big dope.
It's pretty cool because that's like second out of the gate. They've got a Kubiak Central episode, which is kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah.
My brother's a dead man.
My friend Jerry said you guys were going to do something really neat today.
Oh God, this is great!